because it didn't rain at the right time. What little there is rained after the first of the 2 sets of storms, and after this, it's just, it just came up. When it's in full bloom, it has these little flowers on it. When those flowers drop off and these seed heads start to turn brown, that's when it's ready to harvest. And we just take a little stick. I mean, if you're just harvesting for just a little taste, you can take the flower heads and beat them on your hand. Or take your hand and beat it on the plant, and the seeds will just fall out just by the hundreds. And then we just eat them. And it's known as the Indian superfood because it has protein, it has fat, it has all the nourishment like a hunter would need in like 2 teaspoons to keep him going all day, as long as he has water to wash it down with. Because when these seeds hit water, they swell up and they form a little gelatinous-like covering. Now, a lot of people that want quick energy or are trying to diet, they'll take chia, put it in a bottle of water, and shake it up and make a slurry. It looks kind of disgusting, actually. It does, but it's very nourishing. The people used to give it to their elders and young babies if they were ailing, to give them a boost because it was so full of food energy. Yes?
With chia, I've seen a lot of people put it in yogurt.
Yes.
For people who cannot have certain things.
Because it is easy on your stomach. If your stomach is upset or you have the flu or something that, your stomach is feeling really iffy, then chia is a wonderful way to nourish yourself with the best possible food, and that's chia. And if you put it in yogurt, I have a friend that made puts it into like breads, like banana bread and everything, and it keeps that bread wonderfully moist. And she uses quite a bit in there, but it is not objectionable at all. And the raw chia right off the plant has a pleasant, spicy little taste, and without being overbearing. So this is the Indian superfood, and the modern world is just now finding out why.
Do you sell that in health food stores? Or?
Yes, they do, and they sell it at Costco now.
Oh, really?
Costco sells big bags of it, really inexpensive.
Oh.
Yes.
Where's your source for that? I've seen a lot of it in the Lower Canyon in good years.
Oh, well, it grows all on a good year, it grows all up the North Fork, but it really grows well on Wentworth Heights Hill.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of it out in Kelso Valley in a good year, but there's very little of it out there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, very little. And I had to really look to find these even. Actually, there's more out on the desert than there is here in the valley.
Interesting.
But it's all very short because it had to pop up all of a sudden. And
Do you guys see how the flower grows right out of the flower? It's one of my favorite plants because of
yeah.
I love that.
Something wrong with Dr. Seuss. I was
Yeah.
just thinking that.
It does kind of look
Looks
like
a
a
Dr.
Truffula.
Seuss flower.
Truffula.
Oh, okay. The next important plant, and this grows in huge profusion all the way up the North Fork.
Sage.
Nope.
Mine was chewing gum.
No.
Nope.
Well,
Yeah.
now you might have something there.
Herbicide.
Yes, yerba santo.
No, it's pretty much the same. The regular term is miner's chewing gum.
Okay, then you were all right. Yes, if you feel this, it is very sticky. Now pass this around and you can feel it. And that's a resin in there. And yerba santo means holy herb or holy plant, and it was named thus by the early Spanish priests that came up and they saw the native people using it a lot. And when the colds and the flus hit and they had terrible coughs, they found that a tea made out of the leaves opens up, it's one of the best bronchodilators in the plant world.
Oh, wow.
And it's good for asthma too, taken as a tea. Now, if you steep it too long, it can get a trifle bitter, but most of the time, if you get a nice young plant like we have right now, they're at glorious height up there as far as greenness and resin. And if you make it into tea, it will open up your bronchial tubes. And I combine it with the second best plant bronchodilator, and that is Grindelia. And that's a fall, I don't have any of it with me right now. It's a fall blooming plant. It's otherwise known as tarweed. And that's Grindelia. And I take the two and I grind them up after they're thoroughly dried, and I put about half and half, a heaping teaspoon each, into these little iron shut tea bags. And then I use them at the farmer's market and everything like that. But that's what this plant is mainly for. It's any problem with your respiratory system, pneumonia, bronchitis, bad lingering cough. I've sold a lot of it this year for that cough that, you know, you can't shake it after you've had the flu or a bad cold. Sometimes you can hack for a month, and this will put a stop to that.
Which farmer's market do you go to?
I go to the Nui Kuni. Yeah, and if I'm not there, they will sell you my items from a stash I keep inside. Sometimes I can't make it. I've been really busy lately. So, oh my goodness, this one's got a spittle bug on it.
What?
Spittlebug. Spitbug.
Oh, spittlebug is a bug that lives inside of its own spit.
That's lovely.
It's really pretty
You
too.
can see it.
I caught them.
I wonder if that would add anything to the tea.
Yeah.
Probably give it to Leiden too. Sweet. Oh, this is a spittlebug.
Okay, the next one. And my cat.
Horsetails.
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 Horsetails. My cats love them. They just decimated my nice new batch. And these grow upriver in swampy areas or backwaters or along the river.
Equistium?
Pardon?
Equistium? Is that the...
Equistum, yeah, equistum, yeah. And the Indians used them as a tea for urinary tract infections. They also used it as, another name for this is scouring rush. And the reason why is because if you, feel these guys, and I'll pass these around. This is dried and this is fresh. Let me pass this over to you guys. It feels like, yeah, they break real easy when they're dry. That's okay. But when you feel them, the dry ones, they feel just like sandpaper. And even the fresh ones do. So they used it. They say the miners in the old days, when they needed to scrub out a pot or something, they just wrap these around their fist, either dry or fresh, and just scrub away.
Wow.
Yeah, scouring brush. But it's also good used as a poultice for bug bites, you know, small wounds and things like that. So, now, yes,
Where did you get it?
it's about a mile up from River Kern on the right. There's a backwater and a little bridge.
Oh, I know
There.
that is.
Yeah. And there's lots of it. It's just now coming up pretty good. But watch out, there's poison oak out in there too. So, yes.
Why is there a pointy thing on the top?
I think that's the seed head. It must be. The little tip to it, or the flower actually.
There's a little point to the top of the stem, which hurts.
For the ones that my cat didn't get to. But I like them. Rose said, sometimes these plants are just for pretty. And I just love to gather a few and, you know, make a bunch and And so, keep them around my house. Okay, we're getting around here. Now this is, and I know you've seen, if you've gone upriver at all, this is flannel bush or Fremantle. And it's in the slippery elm family. You can use this plant in the place of slippery elm. And it also is used by the bark, or used the bark. And what you do with this plant is you take a knife and you peel bark strips. Many bark strips. It's also used as cordage by the Indians. What is cordage? Cordage is string, rope. They would weave this bark into rope. But this bark was dried and used. They say the most elegant way you can use this bark is get a little bundle of it, put it in a quart jar of water overnight, and then sip it for sore throats and colds, and it's the best thing. You can also grind it and put a teaspoon or so in a cup of boiling water and drink it down. But it's the bark that's used on the Fremantle, and I intend to get a good amount of it so I can do the quart jar thing. I think that's so cool. So you just get a bundle of the bark, roll it up, and stick it in the quart jar, and let it sit overnight. And you've got tea for your cold, and it's also an expectorant. It'll make you cough up that stuff. So.
Oh, I know what I'm doing after school.
Oh yeah, and they're very abundant now, and all the good stuff is up in the bark, in between the plant and the bark. So that's what we use that for. Okay, now we're getting down to some exciting stuff here. I just collected this was it yesterday, day before yesterday, and in the canyon. We have two species. This is called beautiful Clarkia, and its little flowers look just like little orchids.
This is the one that we're helping to monitor for the professor at Cornell University. We've been looking
Really?
at the Clarkia sprouts and comparing it to different areas. So we have a spot out in our garden.
And you have this particular species.
I'm not sure about that because they haven't sprouted very well this year.
Okay, yeah, they're slow.
Yeah.
They're very slow. This is called beautiful Clarkia. It has a close relative that has a flower. It's also pink, but it looks nothing like this one. It looks more like a small, delicate pink tulip. And it is the one, the Indians used both the seeds of both that and the little tulip-shaped Clarkia for food. And they would go out. It's also called farewell to spring because when the rest of everything is brown, up comes this blush of pink on the canyon hillsides. And that's why they call it farewell to spring, because it's the last flowering wild thing just about. And they would go out when it was very abundant and just thresh those seeds later on when the petals started to drop. And but I just think it's the most gorgeous little flower I've ever seen. It makes me really appreciate, if you just stop and look at things, of course, I just love all the native plants anyway, but, okay.
So the seeds are really nourishing.
Yes, yes. So, you're trying to propagate them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, just to count how many. We're supposed to pull them out as soon as they sprout. So
Oh.
we can count. Yeah, I know.
Okay. We were out on the Navy base, and we put 5 people in fast, and as following my husband's traditions. And I found this what is called desert trumpet. Why is it called desert trumpet? Because of these inflated stems here. Now you'd wonder, what in the world can the Indians do with that? You know, and for one thing, it's part of the huge buckwheat family, and they ate the seeds. They ate all of our native buckwheat. They ate the seeds from that, but the native buckwheats come in many different forms that you wouldn't even think are related to each other. And this, to me, is the oddest one. I call this the Dr. Seuss plant. To me, it looks like kind of otherworldly. But the Indians used it. They used tobacco as medicine, and the wild native tobacco. And what they would do was, let's see, this is the only, cut this off, cut it off about here, and fill this hollow tube or blown out section with wild tobacco, or there's other medicines that are useful by smoking. I don't recommend you guys go and smoke that, especially not native tobacco. It's so strong, and I don't smoke at all, so. But I had a smoking friend try it. He thought it was just great, you know. But they also used other medicines such as, what is it? The big, tall, fuzzy guy, mullein. The mullein was also useful when smoked. So they would put different medicines in there, and I'm not acquainted with them all. But I know they smoked certain medicines, and this is the little guy. I'm drying it right now. It should turn kind of a golden brown, but it may not because I picked it before its time, you know. But again, it was all over the desert, and I didn't feel too guilty. I thanked it, said, you're going to help educate people as to how wonderful our Native Americans were and how they made use of everything in their world. So anyway, I just love this, and I'm going to use it for a long time in talking. So I have one last thing, and I'm going to have to do this outside. Now, how many people,
Hold on, guys.
how many people, this is kind of self-explanatory. What do you think the Indians used for diaper material when they had, before diapers?
Cattails?
Yeah. Did you hear that before, or did you get a clue by me lifting this up?
I've heard it before.
You've heard it before. Have you ever been to one of my demonstrations at the Cultural Center?
I think so.
Because I've done this before.
My dad takes me to anything cultural.
Anyway, before diapers, when the babies were in the cradle boards, I had a friend that made cradle boards, an elder, and she said a cradle board baby never had diaper rash and they never got colic because from birth on to several months, they felt very secure in that cradle board. And the mother would carry it around on her back whenever she did her work. And they had ones that came to a fork at the bottom, and they would stick them in the ground while they were gathering something or doing some work or grinding acorns, whatever. Or they could hang it from a tree and let the wind kind of, you know, have the baby go to sleep. But I want to show you how they used the cattails, the tules, for diaper material.
Wow.